spoiler or air deflector, fuel saver or gimmick? Today I want to find for myself if an air deflector really saves fuel or if it's just a myth. To do so, I built and test my own air spoiler. After all, semi-trucks nowadays all have fancy spoilers and skirts to reduce drag, so it might work, right? In the process, I'll gather a bunch of data, hopefully easy to understand, and I'll do my best to make a conclusion that makes sense, although the end result might surprise you.
I'm gonna check for the first time, and it is...
And yeah, at the end, I also went full computational fluid dynamic on it, or CFD. So here's the scenario. Me and my family are leaving in 5 hours for a camping weekend. And yes, at the time I was supposed to be packing, but because my wife left me more than 5 hours unattended, I decided to build an air deflector. Because if you think about it, this 6-hour trip was the perfect opportunity to test the spoiler. But time was of the essence, so let's build it. After taking a few measurements and making a proof of concept, I quickly designed something in SolidWorks. From there, I sketch a pattern with specific points to trace the outer lines. The plan here is to go full semi-truck. I'm going with a round shape and not a flat spoiler like the ones you can buy. With this design, the goal is to smoothly push upwards the air, reducing the amount that will directly hit the trailer, which causes drag. To build it, I'm using the last 8-inch ABS 4x8 sheet that I have left from a previous and poorly executed thermoforming project. Yep, I got 2 videos on this failure in case you're interested. Okay, enough yap, let's really build it because I'm running out of time. After tracing the center line and 5 points around the outer edge, I use an aluminum flat bar to create the curves. To cut any plastic sheet, I always use this diamond cutting disc. It chews right through the plastic and never gums up. For your polycarbonate windshield project, that's the blade you need. To ensure that both sides will be cut equally poorly, I use the first half to trace the other side. To make sure I don't decapitate any bikers once this thing flies through the air because of a failed anchor point, I rounded the edges using a deburring tool.
Nice.
For those of you who have been around for a while following this channel, you know how much I love working with metal, but wood was my first love. So when I've been approached by today's sponsor, Woodworkers Guild of America, I was really intrigued. Woodworkers Guild of America is a go-to online resource for woodworking, instruction, ideas, and information. They have a great list of project videos and articles, like for instance, one of my personal favorite, this live edge table made from 2 matched pieces of maple burl. They made a 3-part video series with step-by-step process on how to turn these slabs into a beautiful and elegant live edge table, providing tricks along the way. I better not share those with my wife because you know what will be my next YouTube video. And then there's a section on hand and power tools. You know how big of a tool guy I am. And what I like about those short clips is that they are very tips and tricks oriented and they always get to the point in just a few minutes. And the list goes on and on with articles and videos on wood turning, bandsaw techniques, cabinet making, finishing, and much more. The first 1,000 of you to click the link in the video description will get a full year of premium membership to Woodworkers Guild of America for only $1.49, valid for new members only. And thank you Woodworkers Guild of America for sponsoring this video. And if we're lucky enough, we should end up with something looking like an air deflector.
Yes.
Then I made a temporary J with the basic dimensions and should be ready to build the inner structure using this. These are some super thin and light aluminum fence tubes that can withstand some force, and I bent it. Well done, Viny. Mais personne n'a rien vu. It's good as new. To speed up the fan process, I bent both ends and that should give me somewhere to install the rivets, because I didn't want to go with fancy bracketry. Don't have the time.
Ta-da!
After fixing 3 cross pieces, I added 2 along the length. And this is where my rivet gun quit on me, after only 25 years of loyal service. You will never be forgotten. After a quick trip to my local hardware store, we were back on business, drilling rivets and popping holes. Non, non, c'est l'inverse. Somehow, I created a black spongy floppy belly, but I've got just the thing to fix it. A brace. And by adding two of those guys and one in the middle, that should be good enough. Until it ain't.
Yes!
Now for the first coupling between the car and its new spoiler. Looks kinda goofy, but it could have been worse. After machining a few brackets, I firmly secured the deflector to the roof rails. And there it is, in all of its glory. I wonder what my family would think about it. Well, what a perfect timing, cause my wife is about to arrive with the kids.
Qu'est-ce que t'as vu?
Okay, from here, I'll do the translation.
Tu sais ce que c'est? Ouais, ça c'est laid.
It's beautiful.
T'as un bec de canard noir sur ta voiture.
And it doesn't resemble half of a black duck beak.
C'est moi, c'est pas
It's
si
not that bad. What is it for?
C'est pour aller plus vite.
To go faster. Again, faster.
Non?
Okay, I've got to be honest. Although the spoiler is big enough and covers quite a good portion of the trailer, the gap between the deflector and the trailer could be an issue. I think it might even cause more drag and maybe a flat spoiler could have been a better option. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. Side note, I've been monitoring the fuel mileage of this car trailer setup for many years, and on average, I'm doing 18.5 liters per 100 kilometers or 12.7 miles to the gallon. On highways, I'm always at around 20, and on slower country roads, I'll do about 17. But I am very slow. On highways, I'm around 100 kph, and if I can, I like to follow from a safe distance other campers and semi-trucks. And that I know for sure, it helps with the fuel economy. Alright, let's get back to the test. Right off the gate, the feeling is great. The vehicle with the trailer feels rigid and stable, and maybe it is better with the deflector. Too soon to tell. Everything went well with no decapitation in sight. The spoiler stayed firmly secured to the vehicle, although it was vibrating a little. I did my usual 20-something on the highway. It felt like we were going faster because we were following the traffic at a speed of around 105 kilometers per hour, 5 more than usual, and I know that it doesn't seem like much, and allow me to get a bit nerdy here. So this is the equation how to calculate drag, which is half the fluid density multiplied by speed square. Square is super important here. Multiplied by the drag coefficient, which we're gonna talk a little bit later at the end of this video, multiplied by the cross-section area. And since in our case, fluid density, drag coefficient, and the cross-section area are constants, the variable that will increase significantly the drag here is speed, and it's also squared. I think we all have in mind that speed has a linear impact on the energy needed to move forward. But in fact, since it's square, it's exponential, more like this. So driving faster by only 5 kph has a bigger impact than we might think. We finally arrived at campsite, quicker than usual, but with a 19.2 liters per 100 kilometers. Hard to tell if the spoiler really helped. Cause I gotta say, it was getting late and I was more in a hurry to arrive than to save fuel. That might have played against the final data. We had a great weekend, and it was now time to drive the 3-hour trip back home, where I managed a respectable 16.1 on the country roads. Then I've been a jerk to my wife. And we concluded the trip back home with an average of 18.5. Since 18.5 is the average I'm doing with the travel trailer, at this stage I cannot conclude anything. The fact that the traffic and speed varied throughout this 6-hour test drive, and that we end up with about the same fuel mileage than previous trips. It doesn't look like it's doing much, but I've gotta say, the feeling was great. For real, is it just a placebo effect? And can I suggest you getting a pricey deflector based on a feeling? No. So I went back on the road and spent an entire day doing more testing. This time the rules are, I'll do one pass without the spoiler, then one with it. Each time, tank full of gas, same bit of highway, then come back at the same spot. And I'll try to keep a speed of around 105 kph without following anybody. And hopefully the data will make sense. By the way, while hooking up the trailer, I came across something funny. Bugs. Squish ones, but only on the two top corners, not in the middle. I knew it would be hard to pick up with a camera, so a bit of tape should help. And it's undeniable, it's doing something. Is it helping saving gas? I don't know, but it's pushing hair and bugs away. So the spoiler really did a thing. Okay, let's spin the tank and hit the road.
First click.
Once arrived at the highway's rim, I stop on the side of the road and reset the fuel mileage gauge, and off we go. I'm gonna drive 45 minutes in one direction, then I'll come back at the same spot and check the fuel mileage. It was pretty straightforward, nothing spectacular happened, thankfully. So I will not bore you with an hour and a half of footage, cause as I was coming off the highway, I got the magic number of 22.5 liters per 100 kilometers, or 10.5 miles to the gallon. That will serve as our base. Then it was a trip back to the gas station, spend a few more coins, and back to square one, where I can install the air deflector. Everything is zeroed out, and off we go. And the second magic number is
21.
So apparently it is saving fuel. Oh, I mean 20.9. Okay, we have results. And by the way, this is just the tip of the iceberg because I'm about to even go deeper into this. But for now, 20.9 over 22.5, which represent roughly 7% of saving, might seem like a lot, but to give you a perspective, I spent more money during that single day of testing that I could have saved for my entire 2023 camping season. Because I'm really serious about fuel economy. Yeah, I'm keeping a logbook on how much we spend for each trip, and in 2023 we spent a bit shy of $1,000 in gas, meaning that I could have saved only $70 in fuel. But I spent a smidge more while testing, so 7%, it's not that impressive. And I know what you're gonna tell me. Viny, it's your round spoiler that is shit. No bueno. C'est de la crise de merde. And you might be right. And that's why I built this. Same rules applied. Refuel, stop at the same spot, zero the gauges, and off we go. The feeling with the flat spoiler was, once again, great. No major difference with the round one. Although I have to admit that the flat deflector has a more subtle and cooler look than the other one. There's a sprint car vibe to it.
Alright, so flashers on, and I'm gonna check for the first time, and it is 20.9, 0.8.
Okay, the round spoiler did 20.9 and the flat one, let's say 20.8. I'm calling it pretty even. Even though during the tests I tried to keep all variables constant at all given time. I am the problem. Cause keeping the same speed on a highway with hills and valleys was a challenge. I might have rushed the first test, not knowing if I could do all three in the same day. And to validate this theory, I timed myself, and the first one might have been just a bit faster. Okay, I'm playing the honest guy card here. I really did my best to keep all tests the same, but in real life, it's harder than you think. Everything is always changing all the time. But I know just the right tool that doesn't have that problem, and it's called AirShaper. I reached out to Wouter Remery, the founder of AirShaper, and we teamed up on this project. I provided a 3D of my SUV and travel trailer, and after a few hours of rendering, the website came up with unbelievable data. By the way, if you're in the same situation as me and have a project but don't have the skills or tools to evaluate aerodynamically your design, AirShaper is the tool for you. It's as simple as drag, drop, pay, and results. I want to specially thank Wouter for guiding me throughout the analysis, especially for phase 2 of this project, because yep, there's a phase 2 of this nonsense. More at the end. So for each simulation, we're gonna get a pretty detailed report, but to simplify it all, for now we'll only pay attention to the drag coefficient. And inside each report, there's a pretty handy chart which represent where your vehicle will rank. For our no spoiler sim, we got a drag coefficient of 0.55, which is not bad, and once again, this will serve as our base. For the round deflector, we got 0.574. It's an increase of 4%, so in theory, according to the CFD, we shouldn't save fuel with this deflector. For the flat spoiler, that one was a shocker. We got a drag coefficient of 0.627, a jump of 14% in drag in comparison to the no spoiler simulation. To understand what is going on, AirShaper has a nice feature called the 3D pressure clouds. With this, we can easily visualize the drag waves and vortices formed while the vehicle is in motion. In general, for all sims, we got drag waves forming on both sides and at the back of the trailer. But the big difference between the with and without spoiler simulation is the size of the vortices created between the vehicle and the trailer. The no spoiler has a small one at the bottom half of the car. The round one, gets bigger with a cobra-like shape. And the flat deflector, well, this one is massive. We can see that the last one is pulling air from the sides of the car towards the front of the trailer. To see all that air sucked in between the two vehicles, I think that explains why we get such an increase in drag for the flat deflector. I spent hours analyzing the results and tried to understand what was going on, because simulations were pointing towards more drag, which translate into burning more fuel, and the real-time tests were telling a different story with a better fuel mileage. Here's the thing though. You have to keep in mind that usually you start your design with CADs and computers doing analysis before building and testing the thing. Not the other way around like I did. In this case, the CFD was an afterthought. While testing the spoiler, I said to myself, how cool it would be to see how wind reacts with the spoilers. Then I thought of AirShaper. I think we can explain the difference between the real-life test and the CFD, because in real life, there will be more fluctuation in variables like traffic, side wind, hills, valleys, and of course, driving speed. But in the CFD, everything is stable, same speed, same everything. Simulators like AirShaper are incredible tools to develop and refine ideas and concepts, but real life will always have its own way. In conclusion, if you ask me, the deflectors are not worth it. Sims are telling they're bad, and real-time tests are showing only at the best 7% of saving, which is not a lot for an entire camping season. Especially if you think about the deflector's price tag. Your return on investment might even take a decade to even out. In comparison, it makes way more sense for semi-trucks who travel millions of miles a year. For those companies, saving 5 to 10% on their entire fleet of truck represent a lot of coins. But all of this testing was not in vain, because what I learned will be transferable into phase 2. This next project, which will take place next spring, will be a full foldable deflector. This time I did the CFD prior of building it, and it pointed me in the right direction for the design, showing flaws and where I can improve airflow. The first sim got a drag coefficient of only 0.434. That's 24% less drag than the base simulation. It's really promising, and you know the drill. Subscribe if you don't want to miss any of this shenanigan. One last note. You have to remember that all tests and sims were made with my specific setup. Being an SUV and a mid-sized travel trailer, results will vary depending on your type of vehicles and the size of trailer you're towing. I repeat, the results will not be the same as me. Might be worse, might be better. But of course, this being the internet, feel free to comment that your brother-in-law in 1994 slapped the plywood on top of his 94 F-150 and cut by half his fuel mileage. Or the fishing boat on top of a truck tip to, according to the myth, reduce drag by 34%. I don't know, I'm making stuff up now. Well guys, I cannot wait to read you. Feel free to comment. Alright, thanks again Wouter from Airshaper and today's sponsored Woodworkers Guild of America. If you like trailers and stuff like this, here's a series on how I build my airbag trailer and where you can buy the plans for it and all my other stuff. I'm Viny B, thanks for watching and see you on the next one.